I was gonna push this video out sooner, but we just ended up getting way too much information too close together because EA decided to hold back the college football info until their Madden reveal was ready. They didn't want another year to go by in which it looked like Madden was taking ideas from the college football team, even though we all know what's going on behind those closed doors. But anyway, the reason I waited is because instead of just throwing a video out there just to be first, ain't really my thing. And instead, I wanted to sit on the information we got and digest it a little and actually analyze the stuff that I think is important in it. And plus, we also got the Dynasty blog that was just released. And that's what I've been looking forward to the most. So if you want to see that video, stay locked in with me, as that will be out shortly after this one. So a good chunk of what we got was already information that we had learned from the beta leaks. Stuff like how dynamic substitutions work, formation subs, and that there were a bunch of sliders that you could tune wear and tear with. But there were about 5 big things that I took away from these deep dives and that I wanted to talk about with you guys here today. But before that, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the small additions that we got that we didn't know we actually needed. Adding those small visual cues for when a player is suffering with wear and tear issues is a nice added touch of realism. Like you'll see on TV when a guy's dealing with, like a quarterback, for example, is dealing with a shoulder injury or his arm is bothering him, he'll shake his arm out or rotate it and things like that to loosen it up. Those little things really add to the immersion of the game. Same thing can be said for the POV perspective of your player when you're doing runouts in Road to Glory. That's a feature that we saw 2K implement in their wrestling series, and it's nice to see the other companies are starting to implement little things like that, just to make those introductory scenes a little bit more interactive. And I'm not one that always notices the lighting first in these games, but just that added realism with the dynamic lighting to where, like they mentioned, 5 p.m. in September looks different than 5 p.m. in November. I think that's cool, but the next step I want to see them take with that is in a stadium like App State, for example, what like the trees and things look like in the beginning of September when they're first starting to play versus what it looks like late October, mid-November when the season starts to change and you get all those pretty colors with the leaves. They've already basically told us that they understand that the game will know when you're playing in September versus when you're playing in November. I want to see more than a change in the lighting. I want to see a change in the actual scenery as well. Now, those were my small quick asides. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. So these Heisman tier badges. Now, we've all had our own Heisman moments in our own way in these games, but the game has never truly presented us with a way to do it. It's always been just a part of our headcanon in which we have one of our guys just going off in the middle of a game, and we kind of tell ourselves like, oh, okay, this is the moment in which he solidified the Heisman for himself. But with this new tier of player abilities unlocking like at specific points in games, after you've like had great performances in those games already, it actually gives us a legitimate way to know like, oh, this is a special moment. This guy is playing out of his mind. It's really given us the opportunity to have those performances that live on in infamy. Now, other than just visually in the game, the height of your quarterbacks will actually make a difference. Now, I actually may think twice about whether I should go after that 6'4" 5-star quarterback with slightly better ratings over the 6'4" 4-star QB. The shorter QBs will have a harder time seeing over their linemen, which is going to result in less accurate throws. And that, people, is still a topic of conversation today when guys go into the NFL draft. Like you just saw it a couple years back where a lot of scouts were knocking, what's his name? Bryce Young. They were knocking Bryce Young's height because of how short he was. And then come to find out, you actually saw that play out on field where he was struggling early on. And also, there will now be a difference in how lower rated quarterbacks progress through their reads. Yeah, this is really going to separate the haves from the have-nots, really, like the elite QBs from the guys that are really just going to be selling insurance when it's all said and done, you know? So those lower rated quarterbacks are really going to struggle now getting to their second, third, and fourth reads during the play. And I see this is also going to be a major factor for those of us that play wide receiver and running back in Road to Glory, because I've seen a lot of instances where the CPU quarterback cannot get the ball to the right receiver during Road to Glory, and they're supposed to be high-rated quarterbacks. So hopefully this is one of those like nice additions to this feature that will also affect other ways that the game plays. So one of my biggest pet peeves with how they handled the cyber faces in last year's game, I know that they were mainly talking about the real player face scans here, but my issue is with the generic ones. Did you go back and fix those generic cyber faces? Because I would honestly argue that roughly 25 to 30% of those were unusable or just weird looking. There was a lot of old man faces in that player pool, and along with an overabundance of black guys with white people hair. They mentioned here that they upgraded the machine learning pipeline in which these faces are generated. Let's just hope that we start to see at least light-skinned guys with dreadlocks and Polynesian and white guys with the hair flowing out of the back of their helmet. It also states that they added a new lean body type to represent the skinny fellas out there, which I'm shocked this wasn't in before, but I guess I never really noticed or paid attention that much because it's odd. I usually always point out stuff like that, but now we will have those players that are built like Devontae Smith out there, which just only adds to the variety and the immersion of it all. But I wonder if having that slight of a build will impact how much of a beating that player can take through the wear and tear system. I want to see if a player's build and weight affects their durability on the field. Okay, now this is exciting. I'm not one to usually get super invested into the commentary, but I know for years the community has been asking for the commentary to be more dynamic and actually address some of what has been going on in your dynasties, like recruiting battles, for example, former players and coaches, and what's going on with the postseason. Now that they've finally addressed this, I actually think I will be trying to listen out to what the commentary team has to say. But I really want to know how repetitive is it going to be, but also how accurate it is. Some variation in the presentation is what these games have needed the most. Most of the diehards of the series play multiple games, and even though these things are known as traditions for a reason, as they aren't changed or often or even ever for that matter, it gets to be repetitive at some point, and it's very skippable. There are some that I think are impactful and I still watch even though I've seen them a million times, like Ohio State dotting the I, the War Eagle at Auburn, and Ralphie charging the field. Now with us having multiple runouts per team, all changing depending on if it's a rivalry, a night game, a big game, etc., it ensures that your experience will always be changing, and it will be tough to get bored of experiencing all of these teams in unique ways throughout the season. This is definitely showcasing how much these guys on the team really understand how the look and feel of this sport is important to us, and what we expect to see as a digital representation of what we see on Saturdays. Well, what do you guys think? This is a lot of information, but we kind of knew what to expect with these. Obviously, there were some surprises like the different runouts depending on the game situation, but not a whole lot of new information was learned. We still have to go over the Dynasty breakdown, which I'll have up shortly, but I would love to know what your thoughts are on what we saw with presentation and gameplay. So please leave those down in the comments. And if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like on the video as it shows your support, and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Until next time, y'all stay blessed. I'm out.